In Nigeria, the scales of justice are meant to be blind, weighing guilt and innocence without bias or prejudice. But a growing chorus of concern suggests that the country's justice system may be operating with a double standard, one for the powerful and well-connected, and another for the ordinary citizen. As high-profile cases continue, of course, to raise eyebrows, many are left wondering, does Nigeria have two justice systems, one that protects the interests of those in power and another that leaves the vulnerable to fend for themselves?
The recent case of Yahaya Bello has sparked intense debate about the fairness of the justice system in Nigeria. Questions that come to mind are, was he given preferential treatment or was it simply a case of ignorance? We'll be exploring this conversation and more. And joining us this morning is Public Affairs Analyst Professor Simon Nna. Good morning, Professor Simeon Nna.
Good morning and Happy New Year once more.
Happy New Year as well. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's start with the obvious, Yahaya Bello's case. He was given a grand welcome. There's a video and pictures of the current governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo's parents, going to visit him and tell him that the current corruption trials he's experiencing are just, tribulations that every great leader has to go through. How do we juxtapose the kind of triumphant entry he was given when he returned to Okene, vis-a-vis the provision of the Constitution that says that people are innocent until proven guilty? So some would argue that he's been given a triumphant entry. Others will say Section 36, subsection 5 of the Constitution says he's innocent until proven guilty. So how do you think that this should have been handled?
Thank you very much. If I will start this way, I think it's a grand norm now for Nigeria that we celebrate the guilty. I can give you a retinue of high-profile people that had infractions, though not been proven by courts of law, but they are being celebrated. Let me start with Ibori. Ibori was accused or was alleged to have embezzled some funds. And here in Nigeria, the Minister of Justice went to court and said he has no case to answer. And he traveled to the UK and was jailed in the UK for fraud. And when he returned, he was given a heroic welcome. So it's not new. Yahaya Bello's case is not new. We had a CJN that first in the history of this country, I think about 14 judges of the Supreme Court wrote a petition against him of how high-handed he was and how funds were used not in the right way. I'm trying to choose my words. Yep. So at the end of the day, the man was celebrated. He was asked to resign, or retire rather. He was asked to retire, and he was given a whooping sum of 2-point-something billion as retirement benefits. He was given the second highest honor in the land. That is the bane of Nigerian society. That is why we are going nowhere in this country. People commit fraud and you celebrate them. Now, Yahaya Bello, let us even trace the trajectory of how he got there in the first instance. Election was held, and the governor was about winning that election, and he passed on.
Yep.
And instead of the deputy being reloaded to take over, he was brought from somewhere, and he took over the place. Now, you did say that we have one justice for the rich and another for the poor. Growing up, what we heard was that the court is the last hope of the common man. Today, I can succinctly tell you that the court is alleged to be the worst nightmare of the common man. A young man in Oshu just stole fowl, and he was given life in prison. And in fact, he was given I think it was not even life imprisonment. He was given a death sentence. That is Nigeria for you. That is the Nigeria we have today. So, as I was saying before, you had that case in Kogi where instead of the deputy continuing the race, where they had almost won that election, in fact, they were coasting home and dry with the results so far declared. But somehow, somewhere, some powerful people in Aso Rock now brought Yahaya Bello, and he took over that and completed the race. We had a similar incident in Bayelsa. The governor was removed and the deputy was removed at the same time. But no, the deputy had an issue. It was not the governor that had an issue, but the governor was removed. What does that tell you? That they are running on a joint ticket.
Yep.
If you can remove the governor because the deputy had infraction, why will you not allow the deputy to continue when the governor died? No, that is Nigeria for you. And that's why we're heading nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's two different things. I mean,
They're not two different things.
No, let me help you understand. The celebration of Yahaya Bello, back in Kogi State, is done by, of course, his fan base that he has in Kogi State, which, of course, he does have. The current governor of Kogi State, Governor Ododo, and every other person around him. They had a small crowd celebrate him. That's a moral issue. That's a value system issue. That is, and we pointed this out yesterday, that you have a crowd coming out to celebrate someone who's been charged with money laundering, mismanagement of, state funds. That's a value system issue. But has the court itself gotten any of these cases wrong? And from the way that the courts have handled the Yahaya Bello case, with what he has been charged with, can you say that there's an obvious flaw in our justice system, comparing it with the Dele Farotimi case, for example, any other case that you can point out?
There are justice flaws, not just in this particular incident. Well, this one you cannot categorically say because the court has not come out to give a verdict,
Yep.
so to speak. But let us look at some cases. In 2019? Elections were held in Imo State. INEC pronounced somebody a winner of that election. And before you could say Jack Robinson, few months down the line, the Supreme Court came up with not the second, not the third, but the fourth person in that election as the winner of that election. Where does that happen? It can only happen in Nigeria and no other country of the world. Now, even if you look, I'm not a lawyer, but I have sanctified common sense. Now, if you look at it from all angles, even when the second person that the Supreme Court now said won that election, maybe we would have said, maybe there are things they know we don't know. But the second person was not mentioned, the third person was not mentioned. It was the fourth person that was mentioned. Look at the Farotimi case you just mentioned. The guy wrote a book, and his book, he mentioned that certain things are happening in this country, and he mentioned some people. Well, he has said himself, one of his last this thing is that he is ready to fight. We know that might could be right in this country. This country is running like the animal farm, where all animals are equal and some are more equal than the others. Mm-hmm. However, the likes of Farotimi will drag this thing to a level that people will now begin to appreciate that we have to say things the way they are. Some of us miss Gani Farotimi, because if Gani Farotimi had been alive today, it would have been a different trajectory. I can tell you for free that some of these judges will run away. Yeah, it happened before in a particular case. I can tell you that was the case of the judges of the Supreme Court having 12 Mercedes-Benz cars. And they went to court. That publication was done by one of the papers, and they went to court. And they were saying that they have been malign, that whatever, just like we are having now. And unfortunately for them, Gani was the lawyer defending the publication, the organization that did that publication. So the first thing that Gani did was to go to the registration office and discover that those vehicles were bought the same day, registered the same day. So he said it's not possible that 12 judges of the Supreme Court will buy cars the same time, the same make, and register the same day. Now, you know what they did? They adjourned that case. And now they went back to the registration office and changed the registration numbers of those vehicles. So when they now asked Gani to provide evidence that those vehicles were registered at the same time, he went to the registration office and discovered that they have done a U-turn. They have now gone to register those vehicles and blah, 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 blah. You know, it's not these days that these things are electronic. So you know what Gani did? Gani started investigating the judges. You know what he discovered? That our CJN was not a lawyer. He came from the Alekale court, and he was reloaded to, that is Nigeria for you, my brother. That is Nigeria for you, my sister. So this country, I don't know where we're headed, honestly, because we need to change a whole lot of things. The person that made that pronouncement is now the Chief Justice of the Federation. That is the bane of this society. So I don't know where we're headed. Honestly, I don't. Somebody should help me.
Okay, I'm going back again to the conversation about Yahaya Bello, right? And why I'm asking this is because oftentimes we see here in Nigeria where we are arguing that if, for example, things like identification parade, you know, when they pick up suspected internet fraudsters, in some cases we don't even know if these people are. They pick them up, they throw them in the Black Maria, you know, or in cases where it's the EFCC making all these unauthorized busts and then showing their faces, Nigerians will scream presumption of innocence, that until the court has said that this person is guilty, then the person isn't guilty. So we don't know yet. For now, they're being investigated and their faces shouldn't be shown in that way. For those who would argue that Yahaya Bello, who is I mean, he's in court, for example, right? He's in court. He's been charged for mismanagement of state funds, but he hasn't yet been declared guilty by the court. So why are we making such a fuss? For those who would, you know, think in that line, what would your response be?
No, if they are saying, well, we're making such a fuss because he has not been declared guilty, why are they celebrating him when there's an infraction? They should have waited until the court says he's not guilty. Why are they celebrating somebody that, you know, the cases are there, you know, except that in this country, like I said before, I don't know where we are heading. Because you discover that at the end of the day now, they start picking holes from, you know, the case that is being presented. And people have been warning EFCC. There's no point bringing in 16, 18, 20-something charges where you can just concentrate on 1, 2 charges and you get that person convicted. Now, in UK, the charges against the body were not more than 3. But here they'll bring 21 charges. At the end of the day, the lawyers will begin to look for loopholes. And I normally say one thing, and I have to say it here succinctly. You know, the lawyers come to claim that they are learned gentlemen. They are not learned in anything. They are learned in Latin. Because when they want to confuse you, they start speaking Latin.
Yeah. Does I mean, the new CJN, you know, who of course, you know, got into office a couple of months ago, has a lot of work to do to clean up Nigeria's justice system, you know, to you know, give Nigeria a justice system that it can actually trust. At least for the common man, for our next elections, there's many, many reasons why we need a justice system that we can trust. Do you think that is achievable under her watch and, of course, under President Bola Tinubu?
I have a challenge. And the challenge I have is looking at her history. Like we said earlier, she was the person that pronounced a 4th person the governor of Imo State. So that is hanging on her neck. She needs to prove to us that maybe it was a mistake, maybe it was an oversight, maybe it was something that she could not handle. Maybe the powers that be were breathing on her neck to do that. She needs to prove that to us. Until that is proven, I have my doubts. I can tell you for free, and you can go to the bank with it, that I have my doubts that she will be able to pull the strings.
So where does the burden now lie? Is it maybe the Judicial Council? You know, is it the body of benches? Where do you see the burden of cleaning the justice system? Where does it lie?
Well, cleaning the justice system may lie on the body of benchers, because if you look at look at an individual to do that will be a tall order. So it will be the body of benchers. But my fear is still there, because when a petition was written to the former Chief Justice of the Federation, they didn't say jack. Because under normal circumstances, they would have risen to the occasion and say, no, this man cannot continue. And he will not be retired. He would have been sacked. He would have been sacked. And now you retired him, you gave him so much money, you celebrated him, giving him the second highest honor of the land. So what do you expect others to do? No, what do you expect others to do? We have rulers in this country. I've constantly said we have not had leaders. We have rulers that are mistakes to be avoided, not examples to be followed.
Do you think that's where we still are?
I don't think a change has been made. Because if that change comes, we will know.
I mean, so you think President Bola Tinubu is not necessarily a leader, you would rather describe him as a ruler?
He's still a ruler. Now, let me give you 2 examples. Now, he came on air the other day and said, the bill that is in the National Assembly, he said, there's no going back on that bill. No, you don't talk like that. We're not running a monarch system. We're running a presidential system where the legislator, the judiciary, and the presidential arm are different arms of government, and each one should checkmate each other. So he should allow the National Assembly to do their job. He should not breathe down on them and say, no, there's no going back on this. We're going to, which means, okay, look at the speed with which some of the laws are being passed. Have you forgotten that when the Senate was inaugurated, they were singing, on your mandate we stand? Yeah. How do you do that? In a safe country, will you allow that to happen? No, you will not. These are the issues.
So, I mean, from your analysis, it doesn't seem like there's a lot that is changed or different or would be better in Nigeria under the current executive and the current National Assembly.
Under the current National Assembly, nothing is changing. Nothing is changing because they are an extension of the executive. I can tell you that for free. And there are reasons, there are situations where we have seen that this Senate can be alleged to be a rubber stamp Senate. They just do the bidding of the president. Of course, he who pays the piper, he takes the tone. He was selected by the presidency. So what to expect?
Is it logical to say that, you know, the National Assembly, you know, fully believe in the ideas that President Bola Tinubu is bringing forth, and so they don't necessarily need to challenge anything? No. If he, you know, makes any request, they go ahead and approve it.
You don't do that, there will be dissenting voices anywhere in the world. He can't be right all the time. We're not saying that the National Assembly should be fighting him. No, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that when issues come, it should be debated. People should be allowed to air their views. Not that you just said, okay, we'll put it to vote. What are you putting to vote? What has not been discussed? What people have not aired their view, and you're putting to vote? And before you know it, the gavel will land. The ayes have it. And even when people are saying, no, 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 you just ambush everybody and say the ayes have it. No, we can't continue this way. There must be a change.
I think the final question, as quickly as you can. Yeah. Are there any countries that you think that Nigeria's democracy can learn from, right? Because you say that the democracy we practice is currently more of an autocracy. Or, I mean, you call President Bola Tinubu more of a ruler. So are there countries that you think that Nigeria should maybe learn from?
Yeah, there are several countries that Nigeria can learn from. The United Kingdom, for instance. I would have said the United States, but things that are happening there now makes me think otherwise. But the United Kingdom, for instance, you discover a situation where an MP was, PM was made to resign because he wasn't doing the bidding of the people. No, we should get to the level where when our leaders are not doing the right thing, we call a spade and not a farm implement. But apologies to Fayose, the former governor of Ekiti State. Now, because of stomach infrastructure, you see people now begin to, sing praises of somebody they should be condemning. I don't think we can continue that way.